Hello, I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and welcome to Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. Today, we get a personal look into the results of what was once a tragedy of loss and one man's search for salvation and meaning. Jeff Johnston lost his oldest son to fentanyl poisoning in 2016, and in 2021, his wife to alcoholism. He's on a journey of healing and to find meaning for his life. It's been 6 years since he first shared his story with us here. He's accomplished a lot since then and is building a powerful legacy to honor his son's life. Jeff, welcome to the show. Hey, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here today.
Well, Peter, first, it's great to be back. It's just jaw-dropping to think 6 years has transpired since I was on your show. And really, your show is one of the very first shows I ever had a chance to be vulnerable and share the story. And honored to come back and kind of, talk a little bit about what has transpired since I was on the show. Obviously, you alluded to my wife, and we can talk a little bit about some of these things. And what I've learned over these years is everything's an opportunity to become a better human. And there's also an opportunity to become bitter. And I think in me sharing my story and what we've done as a family to come out of the other side of this, this chaos is we're stronger. We've built resiliency. We've lived to live undeterred. And that's kind of what it's about.
Yeah, and you've not just become stronger, but you have built, I guess I could call it in the context of what one man's journey is in life, sort of an empire of ideas and thoughts to really help other people.
Yeah, vulnerability is a beautiful thing, but in and of itself, it can become problematic as well. And I found early in my journey that being vulnerable was tapping into my old narcissism, and it was becoming about me. And I made a pivot from becoming what I called angry fentanyl dad, where I'd go to schools and yell at kids, "Hey, don't do drugs or you'll die like my son." I decided to shift and go more into empowerment and more into love, hope, inspiration, courage, and less fear and scarcity. And that's where I'm at today at 58 years old. I really feel fortunate and I have a lot of gratitude where I'm at. Of course, I miss half my family. I would do anything to get them back. And the reality is I can't. But I can control what I do each day. And so I have like non-negotiables I do every day that keep me in a good place. I can share some intimate details of some things that have happened in these last couple of years that were very scary for me, that I found ways to cope. And, nobody wants to just survive, right? I know that's the name of the show, but we want to thrive. I mean, surviving is to get to thriving, you have to survive, right? You can't just wake up and be thriving. You got to survive, and survive means do what you got to do each day to stay above ground. And I've taught myself, I've stolen from people, surrounded myself around some amazing humans. And that's where I'm at today.
Yeah, you did have justifiably so some anger initially. I mean, you were I remember you were just frustrated with the fact that the world could evolve to put risks like this in front of children.
It was helpless. I mean, I watched Seth get diagnosed with attention deficit at 16 and given Adderall. That's really where everything started. And I go back now, and I'm not criticizing doctors. I'm not criticizing Adderall. It's like, why was that the first option though with Seth? Why didn't we do other things first and introduce him to mindfulness and get him outside a little bit more and get him off screens and watch his sugar intake and get him to do some breath work? And we didn't do any of that. We just went to the doctor, dropped him off, and a week later walked out with a bottle of Adderall. And it's like, that's how we do things today. And I have to ask the question, how's that working? How is that working when we lead the world in teen antidepressant prescriptions? It's not luck. It's by design. And I'm not really fighting against the drug cartels in Mexico. I'm fighting against the drug cartels in our country and in the world that sell prescription drugs to kids. And again, that's a different podcast, as I like to say, but it's a rabbit hole that I tend to go down. But the reality is we need to exhaust other ways to empower young adults to live inspiring lives. And then if none of those work, sure, let's try a small dose of Adderall or something else. But it seems like we don't do that today. And it cost my wife and my son. And And I'm drawing a line in the sand. It's like, I don't want to be that guy anymore that people look at me and say, oh, I feel sorry for Jeff. I want people to look at me and say, man, I love what he's doing. I can do that too.
You're being very gracious to the pharmaceutical industry, because when we go back to the roots of the opioid epidemic, it
Yeah.
was vested in the pharmaceutical industry.
Yes, it was.
But it's also a culture that, for many reasons, became one that wanted instant solutions, that wanted to take a pill and be thin, or this and be healthy. And that world has changed. Let's take a short break. We come back, we can talk about how you've approached those changes and some of the solutions that you're working on to help people cope with this threat. See you all after the break. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
Well, because it's the best. And that's true, because I've thought about that. I mean, definitely the fastest. And the biggest thing I hear most people talk about is the stability of it.
MediaCom's network is very reliable. We have a lot of programs in place that can monitor kind of issues that arise. That way we can fix them before they reach the customer.
Trust the pros. Get extreme internet starting at $9.99 a month for a year.
Malware and bots and worms, oh my. The wild, wild web can be a scary and complex place. And as our digital world expands, so too are the threats. Watch out, Trojan horse. That's why at MediaCom, we take security very seriously and monitor our networks around the clock to stop threats before they can affect you. Not today, rude kid. Not all internet is created equal. We build ours to keep you connected and protected.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. We're speaking with Jeff Johnston, author, podcaster, tech company founder, and speaker, all dedicated to making a difference for people dealing with mental health and substance abuse issues. Jeff, let's talk about this, because you've really put your arms around a lot of practical approaches and solutions. How did this evolve, and what are you focusing on now?
Yeah, I mean, the evolution is a great question, because I really don't know how this evolved. I mean, I've built some resiliency over the years. I've learned to be a little naive on certain topics, which has been a benefit. I'm also super focused. When I really like something, I dive into it. And I think the combination of all these skill sets, being able to reframe things, has really helped me. So when, death comes into my life, which it will, all of us eventually, I was able to reframe it over time as opportunistic. It's like, I'm a competitor as well. So when death took Seth and Prudence and said to me, what are you going to do next? I'm like, I'm not ready to go. So here's what I'm going to do, And so for me, it was like a natural evolution to not really fight death. I don't fear death, but it's more of how can it inspire me? How can I take what it took for me, instead of drinking myself to death or taking my own life, which I almost did 2 years ago when my wife died. I literally got down to 3 seconds. And this was just 2 years ago, which is shocking, because people see all I've done. They think, oh, not you. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of us in the advocate side struggle with our mental health. And I think for me to talk to kids and people that, yeah, I had a gun to my head. That triggers you. I'm sorry. It almost triggered me, literally. And I didn't do it, and I'm here. And there's something about leaning into these things to learn from them. I think that's a great phrase I teach young people. Instead of repressing and regressing and pushing things back, it's like, I welcome all this pain in my life. I filter through it. I take the suffering, and then I print out, like a 3D printer, opportunities and love and hope and inspiration. It's like, I do feel very fortunate. I really do. And I'm not going to say lucky, because you don't lose half your family and say you're lucky, but I do feel fortunate. I'm in a position where I've built ways up each day that keep me in a place I need to be. And when I do fall off a little bit, I allow myself some grace and some dignity. I let me cry. I let me struggle. I let me hit the wall, whatever I need to do. And then I'm right back on the horse.
You were a little bit hard on yourself in the first segment, because you talk about breaking through your sort of narcissism, your self-pity, and the things that you were going through. But from what we've seen here, and a lot of people that have been through really traumatic experiences, that's sort of integral to getting past sort of those internal stigmas that have bound your psyche up and kept you afraid,
Yeah.
and allowed you to really, you can't eliminate the pain or the fear, but you can feel it in its entirety, which obviously that was also a quite, I may call it inspirational
Hmm.
moments for you, but it also led to things like thoughts of suicide and your own
Yeah.
mental health issues, which we are now learning are in everybody's lives. This is not a small
Yeah.
percentage of people that experience these thoughts and feelings.
It's every single human that's ever walked the planet. And we pathologize normal human emotions now, like anxiety and sadness and fear and envy and jealousy. And we put labels on them. And then that's how we approach things. We compartmentalize everything. Like there's some magic antidote that's going to stop you from becoming a werewolf. So take this pill. It's called Adderall. It's like, now that's a broken system. Somebody's got to come with a fresh new approach of telling these kids, you don't need fixed. You're not broken. You need believed in. I'm that guy that's going to believe in you, and our team is going to believe in you, and we'll show you how we do it, and practice what we preach. But again, I think allowing myself some grace and some mercy when I am struggling, Peter, has really helped me. And I think at the end of the day, as I help people, I'm really helping myself. I'm really helping myself, my own self exploration, my exploration of my spirituality, things like that have come really full circle from where I was before Seth died. I'm a better human being today than I've ever been in my entire lifetime. And it's just hard for people to understand that. But I don't think I'm acting any differently than a lot of people. I really don't. What else do you do? Drink yourself to death? Kill yourself? It's like I got close to that. I looked in the face of all these things, and I didn't like what I saw. So I don't want to go back to those situations. So I work really hard at what I do every day.
It's a fascinating world, because it used to be the dialogue of the elderly to talk about meaning in life and what life's about.
Yeah.
But now the youth are as actively engaged in those questions as anyone. And you're in that middle ground, younger than I am, but where we're seeing that it's not like there's a silver lining to these clouds. It's that, wow, these are issues that eventually were going to be important to me. And it's not the worst thing in the world for it to be important now, because maybe there's something on the other side of that where I can really contribute to what's happening in society and culture. And as I see you migrating to all these ideas on how to help people, is your physical and mental sort of space changing along with the ability to reach out and help people?
Changing drastically to the point where I'm not the same person I was, not even close. It's like I have, reincarnated myself without dying. I mean, I've found a way to like rebirth myself without having to die,
Stay tuned. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to continue our conversation with Jeff. You really don't want to miss this. See you all after the break.
Dad, I'm not glitching.
I told you with our new Extreme Internet, it will be smooth streaming.
That's unbelievable.
Well, you better believe it, Missy.
I already finished streaming the whole second season of my show.
So start the third.
What the fast? That's really not frustrating.
I'll take that as a compliment.
You should.
I'm gonna get some ice cream. Do you want some?
With the drama-free reliability of Extreme Internet, you'll have to create your own. Get super fast internet with whole home Wi-Fi for as low as $24.99 a month for a year.
You told me not to talk to strangers. You told me not to cross the street without looking both ways.
You told me not to touch the stove. You told me not to do drugs. You told me not to drink and drive.
You gave me so many messages about how to stay safe. Why didn't you keep me safe by properly storing your gun?
Watching MC22 is now easier than ever before. All Mediacom customers can watch local programming online anytime. Go to mc22.net, click Watch MC22, and log in with your Mediacom account. Not a Mediacom cable subscriber? Mediacom internet or phone subscribers can watch too. Your local programming leader, MC22, online at mc22.net/watch.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad, and the fascinating story of Jeff Johnston's road to salvation is in inspired efforts to build a legacy of healing. Jeff, what are you working on now that's got you so excited?
You know, one thing as an advocate, Peter, is you got to kind of pick a lane. You got to kind of pick, you can't save everybody. You got so many, I've got attention deficit and I love it. And we need to start telling kids it's a superpower, not a curse. And it's like, with a busy mind, it's like I can get distracted. So I decided a couple of years ago that I wanted to help kids. That's like the lane I want to be in. So like youth mental wellness, youth mental health. So I started researching it. I come from a financial advising background. So I ran Premier Investments of Iowa and Cedar Rapids here for 30 years, which I just sold it a couple of years ago to do this now. And in investments, there's a thing called diversification. You take money, you spread it out, it covers your risk. So you have stocks, bonds, and real estate. And I said, well, if we can introduce 2.56 billion Gen Zers, the largest generation in human history, a third of the world's population, to this idea of mental wellness planning, like we do financial planning, what would my asset classes be? Instead of stocks, bonds, and real estate, what would we invest in? Because the mental health industry was just whack-a-mole. It was wait till a kid have a problem, take him to the doctor, send him to the gym, get off screens. I mean, it was just very reactive. So my asset classes on our app are health, wealth, and purpose. And we believe that we've built the nation's first mental wellness, empowered mental wellness app aimed at Gen Z that focuses on self-assessing and autonomously building their own personal mental wellness plan, focusing on 3 areas of optimal mental wellness: health, wealth, and purpose. And that's what we've built at Brighton. And I'll say this, the idea or the name, when Seth died, 3 weeks later, his daughter was born. So I don't know if I even shared this on your show 6 years ago, Peter. I have a 7.5-year-old granddaughter. She is the love of my life. She's one of the reasons why I didn't do what I was going to do 2 years ago. Her name is Brighton. So I named my life's legacy after my granddaughter in honor of my son and my wife. And so for that reason alone, I will make this work. I will make this be a successful entity for everybody involved: kids, investors, myself, my family. So I know I don't have a backup plan. Like I joke when I keynote, I burned the bridges and sank the boats. I'm never going to retire. I don't think my mind or my heart will let me. Maybe someday I'll just run out of energy, but I don't know. My dad's 92, and if I'm anything like him, I don't think I'll run out of energy. But I didn't think I'd be doing this, man. I mean, at 58, I just didn't think I thought I'd be retired and traveling with my wife and doing those things. And, you know, life didn't give me that option, but they gave me this tremendous opportunity to do what I do. And I'm very grateful.
You know, what is some of the feedback you're hearing from kids using this app?
They love it.
What are things that are surprising you when you hear from them?
What's surprising me is that they're very more likely to change behavior hearing these stories from their peers. And so one thing I noticed that, you know, adults want to come running in and fix these kids. They want to come running in and save this sinking ship. I'm like, we need to change the narrative, adults. These kids don't need saved. They don't need fixed. They need believed in. They need someone to believe in them. And like, I'm like that guy right now in this little lane I'm in. I believe in this. I think this generation will be the greatest generation in human history. And they have to be, Peter, because they're the largest in human history. So it's like, and we created these problems. They didn't invent social media. They didn't invent vaping. They didn't invent fentanyl. They didn't invent the labels. We did. Adults did. We are obligated to build the systems and processes and to align forces and to collaborate and to partnerships to help these kids, not fix them. And when I say help, I mean inspire them and empower them. And that's the sword I'll fall on. I mean, that's where I've committed my life to. And I'm finding people that agree. And that's been beautiful, just to let me drive the bus, and I'll go down the road and try to see who wants to jump on. And those that, for some reason, this isn't their lane, that's fine. You know, everyone has their own little purpose. They have to figure out what's important to them.
Well, let's learn what's on that bus when we come back from a short break. And Jeff, I'd like you to share some, what I'll call final comments, insights, and inspiration from the journey you've been on. See you all after the break.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Oh boy.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Watching MC22 is now easier than ever before. All MediaCom customers can watch local programming online anytime. Go to mc22.net, click Watch MC22, and log in with your MediaCom account. Not a MediaCom cable subscriber? MediaCom internet or phone subscribers can watch too. Your local programming leader, MC22, online at mc22.net/watch.
Hello, today on Surviving Bad, we explore Jeff Johnston's journey of healing and finding meaning for his life. And he's accomplished a lot and is building a powerful legacy to honor his son's life. Let's see what insights and inspiration Jeff has to share. Jeff, you talked about being on the bus, both metaphorically and really physically, and you've got some really interesting stuff coming up. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, I mean, when I say on the bus, I literally mean it. So in 2022, again, with attention deficit, I just can't stop thinking of ideas. I was getting a little bored of, writing a book and the podcast and all that. So I thought I'd do the next best thing. I went up to Camping World up in Cedar Falls and got a 34-foot brand new Hurricane Thor RV, fully wrapped it in black and gold, the Living Undeterred U.S. tour. And I embarked on a 20,000-mile, 95-day odyssey around the United States that brought me in front of some of the biggest, and it was just like on a whim. And it was hard work. It almost killed me. Literally, it was financially, I wanted to raise $1 million. I raised like 30,000. So it didn't go as well as planned. But what I did is I planted seeds around the United States that, I'm a serious person. I'm like the foot soldier. It's like, I need people to believe in me. I'll get the work done. I just need some help. So I got back, and the tour was great and really was so inspirational in some of the ideas that I have. And I met people like Ryan Hampton, who you said has been on your show before. And Ryan just notified me 6 months ago, hey, Jeff, they've got a national thing called Mobilize Recovery, kind of like what we did, Peter, but mine was more around the whole United States. Mobilize goes straight across, and I think they start in LA and end up at the White House. And he said, Jeff, how would you like to have Cedar Rapids be a stop on the tour? And I'm like, oh my, yeah, I will make this happen. So October 2nd at Bart's Farm in Hiawatha. So imagine a pumpkin patch in October in Iowa. It's going to be really cool. Ryan said, I want the most Iowa looking place. We could have this bus stop. And so the bus will roll in on the 2nd up at the farm. I think 2:30 to 6:30 is the resource fair. We have like 30 vendors already committed. We've got some great speakers coming in. It's a really, flexible kind of a organic day. It's not going to be overly structured. We're going to have speakers come up and talk. But for anybody who's struggling, and what's really interesting, Peter, is the recovery industry was once owned by those people struggling with alcohol and drugs. And now recovery's kind of evolved into a phrase. I recover from trauma. I recover from grief. I recover from gambling. So recovery isn't owned anymore by, one subset of people. You're in recovery too. We're all in some type of recovery. And so the beauty of this stop, it's called Mobilize Recovery, is it's bringing together the best people I know in the area to collaborate, network, and then a lot of people that are in the midst of struggling that just need that boost. And I'm honored to be able to have this opportunity. And I keep continually to find myself at the seat of the table of these people that really want to change the world. And that's my life stream, is to be at the seat of the table with the biggest movers and thinkers on the planet, not just the ones that have the money, but the ones that have the passion and the heart behind the money. And together, not by myself, that we can start to really do some great things as a team. That's the vision.
Now, to talk about this event, is it reasonable to say that it's going to be a great family event as well, and that it would be, it's not,
Yeah.
it's just not about the dispossessed and the angry or the
Yeah.
hurting or the in pain, but it's an empowerment festival.
Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, it's family fun, family friendly, whatever you want to call it. We have hay rack rides. They'll have a corn maze. We've got arts and crafts. We've got, a lot of the organizations in town are doing things for memorials, painting rocks and doing things like that. So it's very uplifting. And best off, it's completely free. We have Hatchet's Barbecue that's going to have their stand up there. We got music playing. I think you're going to come there kind of bewildered, maybe a little like, what is this? And you're going to leave going, I'm going to write that book that I've been putting off. I'm going to start that podcast I was going to, or I'm going to go have lunch with this guy I met that thought about killing himself a week ago and I want to help him. It's like, I think there's just something about changing the perspective that we're looking at these challenges we're having and making more opportunities that we can all come together instead of putting them in boxes and diagnosis and labels and this just horrific way we treat humans today.
Well, let's take a look. We've got about 30 to 45 seconds left. What's a final message you'd like to leave our viewers with, that may be struggling, that may realize that this whole idea of grief and mental health is just, it's about everybody?
I think you ask yourself this question, and how you answer this question will dictate the quality of the rest of your life. And the question is this, Peter: do things happen to you, or do things happen for you? And if things happen to you, you're a victim. And that's the bitter road. If things happen for you, you are a victor, and that's the better road. So that's what I tell people at the end of every talk. Do things happen to you, or do things happen for you? And we need to be more on the victor, opportunistic love and hope, and less of a victim, because today there's way too much victimization going on, especially with young adults. So that's how I would leave it, is do things happen to you, or do things happen for you? And then however you answer that, it will really tell you a lot about your life.
Well, thank you so very much for joining us today, and thank you all for watching. Check out our website at healthyiowa.org and keep your eye on MediaCom MC22 for our next episode of Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. On MediaCom MC22, your local programming leader.